Hi there, my name is Michael Lee of the Source Code Group, and today I'll be talking about group level approval rules, specifically targeting all protected branches. So what we have here is the flow of adding group level merge request approval rules. So here we are at the group level settings. This is in general settings because that's where merge request approvals currently is. We have these approval settings set at the top group level, and we're going to introduce approval rules. Clicking on by default, nothing's added. We can click on this button to either add the minimum required approvals or a custom approval rule. If we do the minimum approval, this is what we see currently in the project level, known as any eligible users, but I'm going to add a label to this called rule, and that will be minimum approvals, and the target branch is all protected branches. Now with this, you can see that it's added, and there's a toast. And let's say I change this to 2. The 2 is applied, and I get a toast that appears. And what this means is that all projects underneath this group will have a minimum required approval of 2 approvers. Cool. Now, if I want to add my own custom rule, approval rules, such as team leads across the group for all projects, I would add a custom approval rule. That opens up the current model that we have, a model that we have right now. The rule name, team leads, target branch for this issue here is going to be all protected branches. This is disabled, and there's only one option at the time being, with the intent that over time we consider adding different scenarios, but for now we're just going to lock it into all protected branches. And we're doing this to leverage the existing UI that exists at the project level, more in terms of saving time and scope. But I'll share some other ideas of how this could be done later on in this video. So I add whatever I need to do, all the users and groups, add them. It gets added, all the different approvers get resolved to individual users as it is currently at the project level. And we get a toast that says approval rule added. Great. If I want to edit that, I will click this and it will open up the modal again for editing. And this is at the end, no toast. At the end of the day, this is what it would look like at the group level. Because we set things at the group level and all projects underneath inherit, we need to look at how this might look like at the project level. So this is the project level view, and we can see that I have these inherited approval rules. So we have 2 of them in this scenario here, and we can see that there's these lock icons, which we currently use for approval settings to show that these are read-only, and they're settings that have been configured at a group level. So we had our minimum required approvals, and the leads. We see the target branch, all protected branches. It's all same there. And if you hover over that, we can see that there's a popover that says this was configured in the group, and you can change it there. The label here says setting inherited. There's a question whether we should continue using the word settings enforced, which is what we use elsewhere, or should we change that language to inherited? But I think that's a minor thing that we can resolve when the time comes. All right, so that in a nutshell is what this whole thing would look like and operate. One consideration I had was around the minimum required approvals. So let's say someone set this up as 2 at the group level, but for my project, I actually want 3 minimum required approvals. So one way we could approach this is that to treat the minimum required approvals to be whatever is set at the group level, and therefore if a user enters a lower number, they can't do that. So if the minimum is 2 and I try to enter 1, there will be some feedback saying, oh, this number is not valid because the minimum required approvals is set to 2 at the group level. Please set a higher number of approvals. So I think this could give us more flexibility for those organizations where they may set the minimum required approvals to be 1, and you could have more projects with stricter rules to set their own values that are higher than the minimum required approvals. So I think that could be something that we explore in the future. For the time being, what I propose is to just lock it down right now. That's something, yep. It's also a consideration of simplifying the page itself. So we just have add approval rule, and the minimum required approvals is added there by default, just how it is in the project level with any eligible users, and default set to 0. My one consideration against doing something like this is that by default, what we would need to do is have a rule that says if this number is 0, we don't display that at the project level at all. And if we do that, then we should be fine. But if we do proceed and we want to display the 0 number at the project level, then I could see there's a scenario for a lot of confusion, such as why is this a minimum required approvals for all protected branches that's configured at the group level being set when, maybe they didn't intentionally set it and it was just there by default because we released the feature. So I'm open for engineering feedback on this one because I think it could simplify things, but we just had to add in a special rule saying like if it's 0, don't display this at the project level. And I'm not sure of what other scenarios that could work against us if we decide to have special rules to hide and show approval rules depending on what's set here. Like, if I set a custom rule to be 0, so like if I set this one to be 0, would I display that at the project level or not? And like if this we don't display and this was 0 as well, like how come we display this but not that? I think there's a little bit of potential confusion that could be arise, but I think another case could be made that the simplification of this flow trumps that potential confusion. And then the other thing that I think that we could explore is starting to use the drawer method for instead of using modals, and this allows us to head towards the direction of what we're trying to work with for branch rules, and where we take whatever's in the drop down now, where you can add users and groups at the same time to actually expand it out so that you add users and add groups in the same manner but separately, so that you can see clearly what's a user and what's a group, and at the end adding them together into the approvers list rather than resolving everyone at this time. You would display the groups and the users individually. And I think from a setting up perspective, displaying that you have selected a group rather than resolving everyone's name out, and there is a benefit there for understanding that, okay, I set it up as a group, and you don't need to like scan every single name to ensure that you have full correctness, but there's other designs that I have in the works around, a way to display all the people who are listed here, kind of like resolving the groups and the users to what we have right now where we display everyone by default. So those are some considerations. I'm open to engineering feedback on what's feasible. What I proposed right now is more of a simplistic approach of handling merge request approval rules at the group level, leveraging existing screens that we have at the project level. And then maybe once we get all that sorted, then we can start thinking about expanding things out into using the drawers or using the minimum as a minimum for approval rules. And yeah, thank you.